Winning the national championship in 2024 did a lot of things for Ohio State and Ryan Day, but they aren't focused on that anymore. It's the 2025 season, and we're going to take a deep dive into the Ohio State Buckeyes to see what we should expect from them and what Ryan Day expects from his team this year. Now, last year, obviously, it was not a simple year by any means. It wasn't a year in which you felt comfortable, especially, you lose the Oregon game, you lose the Michigan game, the drama surrounding that, and then you go on an absolute tear in the college football playoff. This is a team that I think a lot of people had doubts about at the end of the season, and they didn't care about that. They found a way to win, and now they're kind of in a similar position. I think there are a lot of people that expect them to take a step back. And as we saw last year, this is a team that potentially thrives in those situations. This is a team that has the ability to bounce back and to embrace that underdog role in a way. They're not a complete underdog. People are still picking them to be at the top of the conference, one of the best teams in college football. But this is a team that definitely has a little bit of underdog to them, and that's going to make this really fun to watch. You obviously have one of the best, even not the best player in college football, and we'll talk more about him in a little bit. But this is a team that is very much excited about what they can do in 2025. You lose quite a bit of talent, especially to the NFL draft. You lose talent to the transfer portal. So replacing those guys will be tough. The biggest one is going to be who replaces Will Howard. Everybody expects one of two guys to be part of that. But Will Howard did a lot of good things for this team. And I think there were some people that didn't expect him to have the success that he did with Ohio State. But he found a way to thrive with this team. In addition to that, though, you do lose quite a bit of talent at the running back position. Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins are off to the NFL. The defensive line lost all four starters. You lose a couple secondary players. Offensive line, you lose Emeka Egbuka. You lose guys that are going to be missed for sure. But the nice thing about being at Ohio State is that you recruit at a certain level where losing certain talent shouldn't phase you that much. If you are recruiting the way that Ryan Day is recruiting, then you shouldn't have to worry about too much. Now, a nice thing is you also get to add players via the transfer portal. And they brought in a number of starters that should help right off the bat. I think the fact that CJ Donaldson may not be the starter says a lot to what the talent coming back looks like. And again, when you recruit like Ohio State does, there is a reason why you have success. There is a reason why you are consistent. And there is a reason why there aren't really rebuilds with the Ohio State Buckeyes program. It's all about reloading and trying to make another run. And that's probably going to be the same case in 2025. I don't expect this team to take a step back by any means. It's going to be difficult. The Big Ten is as challenging as it's ever been. And now you're ushering in a new era at the quarterback position. And Julian Sand is coming in with plenty of excitement. It'd be one thing if we didn't really know a ton about him. But Julian Sand came to Ohio State, and last year there was some buzz about him potentially starting over Will Howard. There's buzz about him potentially winning the quarterback job. Now, it was a very brief moment, but that at least speaks to the excitement that he brings to the table. You're not necessarily saying that he was going to be the starter, but you at least down the line see that that is a potential possibility. Julian Sand has the talent. He maybe isn't the biggest quarterback, and I think a lot of people would say that he has a little bit of a more slimmer frame, which could be some sort of concern when it comes to taking hits, but the talent is there. The arm talent is there. The ability to distribute the ball to his playmakers is there, and he's going to have quite a bit of receivers to throw to. He's going to have the best receiver in college football to find downfield. He has a couple of other guys that are proven commodities, and he has a couple of young players that are ready to step up as well. But Julian Sand, I think, is going to be really fun to watch. We don't know what he can do. We're still waiting to see what it looks like when he faces actual competition. And that first game that they have, we'll talk more about that here in a little bit. That first game will dictate a lot of how we feel about him. Now, that being said, he is being pushed every single day. The quarterback position is talented. Lincoln Keenels is going to be a guy that pushes him for this spot, and it's been a competition, but I think a lot of people would say that Julian Sand is the guy. I think that says a lot about his ability to make plays, and it also justifies the hype that we saw last year during the offseason. It wasn't just we're making this up because Julian's saying it just has to get more confidence. It's not to make people think that there's a different story going on. It's legitimate hype. It's legitimate performance. And it'll be fun to see what he can actually do once he hits the field. It will be a tough job to replace Will Howard just because Will Howard had so much experience. Sand comes in relatively green to the quarterback position in terms of college football. And it might take him some time to get used to the speed of the game, get used to the players around him, though it should be pretty easy to move the ball down the field. He does not have to be a hero. He has the arm talent to be that way, but he doesn't have to be. He can just take what the defense gives him. He can take some chances with Jeremiah Smith, and you feel like you're in a good position to potentially make plays. Now, while everybody is focused on the quarterback position, the running back position is going through a transition as well. Losing Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins could be just as difficult to replace as it is to replace Will Howard. This is a running back group that bounced back in a big way in terms of staying healthy. Travion Henderson, we finally get to see what he does in a full year, and it was great. It was fun to see him and Quinshon Judkins just dominate at times and make explosive plays, and it was a great 1-2 punch. That being said, I think it is going to be a different kind of 1-2 punch in the backfield this year. James Peoples is a guy who doesn't have a ton of production, but it's someone that everybody's really excited about. Everything that I've heard about James Peoples is that most people don't know who he is. Most people don't know what he's capable of doing, but the Ohio State community knows, and the coaching staff really likes what he brings to the table, and they're really excited about what he's going to do in 2025. So expect those numbers to increase quite a bit. Now, you do get to pair a big back and CJ Donaldson, 6'2", 237 pounds, had 734 yards for West Virginia last year, and it'll be fun to see how he fits, how he gels with this offense. This is an offense that was 58th rushing the football last year, and I think that they are looking to make sure that that is an improvement in 2025. I think that even with Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, you want to see that number go up, but even if you don't, if you still have the balance that you did last year, you feel pretty good about what this team can do. But getting CJ Donaldson was a nice addition. You also have some younger players. Sam Williams-Dixon is going to be someone to keep an eye on. He is a player that got some time last year and someone who knows what this offense is looking to do schematically. So it'll be fun to see how he fits in this rotation. Freshman Bo Jackson, which is just a great name for a lot of people to talk about. He is someone that could be in that as well. And Brian Hartline is in a position that he's kind of familiar with, but it also is still new as the offensive coordinator. It'll be interesting to see how he and Ryan Day gel together in terms of play calling, how much freedom he has to make those calls. But the one thing that you always go back to is that he's going to have a lot of talent to work with. He's going to have a lot of options, and play calling is a difficult task, but at Ohio State, it feels slightly easier because of the talent that you return and the talent that you're going to be able to utilize. Part of that talent is at the wide receiver position, and this is a group of wide receivers that has great starters, and the future of it appears to be bright. Now, Brian Hartline is a huge reason for that. He has done an incredible job of producing wide receiver talent year in and year out, and this year will be no different. Jeremiah Smith burst onto the scene fast. This is a guy that we thought could definitely be a starter in college football as a freshman. This is someone who we thought could be really fun as a freshman. And we saw everything that we imagined he could be in 2024. 76 catches for 1,315 yards and 15 touchdowns. 6'3", 215 pounds. Just looks like he can do literally everything on the field. And the scary part about him is that we're going to see plenty more of him still. There is still plenty more football for Jeremiah Smith to play, and he is going to be a big reason why Julian Sand has success this year. He is going to be a big reason why Julian Sand has comfort and confidence, because when you get to throw to a Jeremiah Smith, a lot of your potential errors kind of go away. You increase your room for error. You're able to make some slight mistakes and let him account for those. Not that you're going to do it on purpose, but you don't have to worry too much about the type of plays that you're making, because Jeremiah Smith is going to help you a lot in that regard. Now, the nice thing too is you do get Carnell Tate back and you get Brandon Inniss back. Now, Tate probably could have gone pro, but ultimately decides that he wants to improve his draft stock. And when you're playing with Jeremiah Smith, you're going to see a lot of exciting matchups because teams know they have to take number 4 away, which opens things up for number 17 and number 1. Now, you also bring in Max Clare from Purdue. Now, Purdue did not have a good year, but they produced a number of big-time players. And Max Clare felt like he was one of those bright spots for the Boilermakers last year. 6'4", 236 pounds, that's 685 yards and 4 touchdowns. Now, we didn't see the tight end position featured a lot last year. That could change this year, especially, again, Jeremiah Smith will command most of the defense's attention. So that means who is going to step up around him? Is it up to Carnell Tate? He's definitely someone that teams know. Everybody knows who Smith is, but it's really, I think, going to come down to, outside of those top 2 guys, who's going to be the reliable pass catcher. Maybe it's Max Clare, maybe it's Brandon Inniss, but one of those 2 guys I think is going to have great opportunities. Even Carnell Tate too. They're going to have opportunities just by having Jeremiah Smith on the field to make big plays. And Smith's going to get his. That's not really going to change. It's not a situation where he's going to struggle at all. He is definitely still going to win a lot of matchups because you just don't have a ton of cornerbacks that can cover him. Even in that first game against Texas, Texas has some good corners, but Jeremiah Smith is still going to have plenty of success because he has the frame, he has the route running, he has the 50-50 ball ability, he has everything that you need to make plays. It's just going to come down to, do we want to make this difficult, or do we want to hit the open guy in Brandon Inniss because he's running wide open, or Max Clare is exploiting his matchup? Those are things to consider. Now, behind the starting wide receivers, this is where the experience isn't there, but given the track record of this staff with Brian Hartline, you feel pretty good. Bryson Rodgers had 5 catches for 46 yards last year. 2 freshmen who have been really standing out so far this offseason, Quincy Porter and Mylan Graham. You look at the guys that are next up to be part of this rotation, one of those, or if both of those, could step up and be large contributors for this offense. That is something that you kind of come to expect with Ohio State, and that is something that should continue as long as Brian Hartline is there. So that's not really going to change. And if anything, even if they don't get a ton of time, they have proven so far that they are ready for their opportunity. So in their limited time, they'll probably be efficient. And then the future of this team is going to be exciting, especially when Tate and Inniss ultimately depart. You just put 2 younger guys in and you get to see what they can do in this offense. The tight end position, kind of the same thing. You have 2 guys that combined for 12 catches for just over 120 yards. And that's the reason that you bring Max Clare in. There's going to be some concern about the tight end position given the lack of usage over the last couple of years. But I think overall you feel pretty good about bringing Max Clare in, and maybe that helps jumpstart a group that could have a massive impact on this offense with teams focusing so much on the wide receivers. The offensive line is going through a transition as well. You lost a number of key players up front, and it's going to take some time to find 4 new starters. When you lose Josh Simmons, Seth McLaughlin, Donovan Jackson, and Josh Fryer, you really had injuries galore in this group. You're looking for guys that are looking for opportunities, and you're hoping that one of them can step up. It's also why you go out in the transfer portal and bring in Ethan Onyanwa from Rice, a massive frame at 6'6", 357 pounds. You're hoping that he's able to solidify that left tackle position. And really, it's not new to see a guy with that size at this position. When you look at some of the players that Ohio State's had, they've had some big tackles that kind of get your attention. And Onyanwa is going to be the same way. You do bring back some players that, again, because of injuries, because of certain things, you're going to see plenty of starts. And it's just that you don't have anybody outside of Tegra Shabola that started more than 10 games. Shabola had 16 starts last year. That being said, guys like Luke Montgomery, Carson Hinsman, and Austin Sareveld have multiple starts. Montgomery has the least with 2, but Hinsman saw 9 starts last year. Sareveld had 6. So even though these guys are relatively new to their role, they have experience. They have the ability to make those plays because they were put in those positions. Injuries are a tough thing to navigate. But one of the nice things about those injuries, if there is a nice thing, is that if you have the right guys ready for their position, or even if they struggle, they at least got that experience for the next year. And that's the one thing that you can kind of hang your hat on. One, the fact that they recruit really well, but two, that they got that experience last year. And now they understand either, hey, I'm at this level, here's how I take it to the next level, or they understand I didn't meet expectations, here's how I get to that point. It's giving you a blueprint for the offseason. And right now, that's probably a concern for this team. And you just have to figure out the chemistry with the new guys and also which one of those guys are ready to make an impact. But again, you recruit at Ohio State at a level that should make you feel confident. And then you also, like I said, get to supplement with the transfer portal. You also bring in Phillip Daniels from Minnesota. So if you don't have the play you want at tackle, you have another option. You also return Ian Moore. At center, you could have Joshua Padilla step up in a big way. And after that, you're looking at guard positions that have young players or inexperienced players that haven't played much. But again, the talent should be there. You're recruiting at Ohio State at a level that gives you kind of that baseline of expectations, that foundation to build on, and that should at least help. Now, the defense also has to go through quite a bit of transition. You lose every starter on the defensive line, but that's not to be unexpected. This is a team that expected a full new group of guys up front because of the talent that you lost from the national championship team. But you also then bring in Bo Atkinson. Now, that was kind of a surprise to me. I didn't expect Ohio State to go after him, but maybe they felt that they needed some more depth. They needed a starter so that some of these other guys can be part of the rotation as well. Opposite of him, Caden Curry, I think, has a lot to offer to this defense. I think that he was just stuck behind two really good defensive ends, and that might be part of it too. The talent level is there. It's just that you had really good starters in Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau. You had really good players up front, and they didn't necessarily need a ton of help. They didn't need a ton of relief, but you still had talented guys waiting. Caden Curry could be one of those guys. Kenyatta Jackson is someone who had production last year and is ready for his opportunity. You bring in Bo Atkinson. CJ Hicks is a guy that is ready for his opportunity. It's just going to come down to who's the most efficient with their time, because you're going to see more of a rotation this year. I don't think one of these guys, as of right now, is set to command most of the reps. So you're going to see quite a bit of talent rotate in and out. You also bring in Logan George from Idaho State. I think that was a really surprising move to bring in an FCS transfer to Ohio State. But if you have the right skill set, Ryan Day and this staff will get you there. And this is a defensive line that has a great leader. They have the ability to make plays. We've seen that. And now you throw in Matt Patricia as a defensive coordinator. It'll be fun to see how this group performs. The interior defensive line honestly might be the more concerning part, just because you don't have a ton of proven commodities yet. I say yet because you had Ty Hamilton and Tyler Williams. You knew what you were getting from them. There were still guys that participated. It's just that now they are thrust into a starting role, and you're kind of waiting to see what they can do. And especially with that first week matchup, you're going to need them to play at a certain level. But there's plenty of exciting players, exciting talent, and plenty of optimism surrounding guys like Caden McDonald and Edric Houston. Those are two guys that should be able to step in those roles nicely and find ways to be successful. If not, again, not a ton of proven commodities, but maybe a Jason Moore can step up. Tywone Malone Jr., Eric Mensah, Will Smith Jr. Those are guys that maybe are going to be part of this and could potentially be really good contributors for a defensive line, especially the interior defensive line, that might need some time to get acclimated with the new expectations, with their new roles, and some of the new faces that come into the rotation as well. That should make things a little bit more challenging for the linebackers, but at the same time, you do return Sonny Styles, a second team All Big Ten selection. So that's a solid piece to have, and the secondary behind them should also be in a good spot. So I don't think you have a ton to worry about in terms of starting talent, and I think the track record speaks volumes to what this team can do. Now, Styles had 100 tackles last year, 11 tackles for loss, 6 sacks. Arvell Reese steps into a new role, but I feel pretty good. Has the size at 6'4", 238 pounds, where you feel pretty good about his production stepping into that new role. 43 tackles, 4 tackles for loss. After that, you have some younger talent that might be stepping in to be part of the rotation. So you have certain guys like Peyton Pierce, Riley Pettijohn, you have Garrett Stover, and then a new face in Ty Howard. There are players that could play larger roles for this team this year. It's just going to come down to who those guys are. Depth probably will be a concern on this defense, at least starting the year. So long term, you're going to have to find guys that step up right away. But if everything that I hear from Ryan Day and the staff about how competitive this group is, that speaks volumes to what this team should be if that does hold true. Because everything we've heard so far is that this coaching staff wanted to kind of give this team a reset and almost kind of put them in that rebuilding mind frame. Not really, but like kind of if you think about it. They didn't want that. This group was young, and the fact that they had so many starters leave and the success that they have means that these backups were itching for time. They were itching for competition because they didn't see the field a ton. They didn't get as many opportunities. So a lot of these guys are hungry to be competitive. They're hungry for time, and they are hungry to show this coaching staff that, hey, we're ready to run it back. We want to make sure that that happens. So they kind of changed their mentality in the spring. And that's where, even though you don't see a ton of experience, you can still have concerns. But this is going to be a fun group that is competitive and ready to show the world that, hey, we are going to be a tough group to compete with. And the secondary is kind of the same thing. You bring back Davison Ibenison, Caleb Downs. You also bring back plenty of other talent. The one player to keep an eye on, I think that a lot of people are getting excited about as the offseason progresses, is Jermaine Matthews Jr. He's going to take the role that Denzel Burke had, and he is someone that I think a lot of people are high on. They think that he is the next great corner for Ohio State. And when you have Caleb Downs in that secondary, it's going to take away a lot of what the offense wants to do. Caleb Downs is a phenomenal player, an All-American type talent, first team All Big Ten. He is someone that has a bright future in the NFL, and he's going to erase a lot of the mistakes in the secondary. Now, Malik Hartford steps into a new role, but you really like his size at 6'3", 194 pounds. This is a good secondary in terms of future NFL talent, and it's just a matter of how well can they play. And this is a group that played really well last year. It helps when you have the defensive line that you do, but this is a group that might have to lead this defense. You might have to cover for longer because there aren't as many proven defensive linemen up front, at least right now. That being said, if they put that all together, then the secondary is going to get right back to where they were last year. And you're not hurting for talent, that's for sure. Lorenzo Styles Jr. is back. After those guys is really where you maybe have production concerns. You have two freshmen that could compete behind Jermaine Matthews Jr., behind Caleb Downs. Depth is going to be a question mark for now. I wouldn't say it's a concern because, again, when you recruit like Ohio State does, and this is one thing I'm learning, is that some teams you kind of give them the benefit of the doubt because of what they return, because of how they recruit, that you feel like, okay, well, yeah, they don't have a ton of production, but in the past they've been in that situation and they've been just fine. I think that that'll be kind of the case here. And with all these moving pieces, you feel pretty good with some of the stability that you do return. And you also feel good about the track record that Ohio State's shown in terms of recruiting. That's going to help you win a lot of games this year. And this is a team that should be right back in the playoff conversation without much trouble. Now, it is going to be challenging. You get Texas right off the bat. That game, even though it's at home, is going to be a massive game. One of the biggest games of the season, and a game that really will tell us a lot about how far this team has come from all the losses they sustained or how far they have to go. After that, you don't have a ton to worry about right away. You play Grambling State and Ohio before you get a bye week. The trip to Washington could be a challenge. A lot of people are excited about what the Washington Huskies could do in 2025, and that might be a tough game on the road, especially for a team that is trying to get some things sorted out. Minnesota is always a tougher than expected team, and with that game being right before a trip to Illinois, that could be a challenge. I'm not saying Minnesota will upset Ohio State by any means, but Minnesota is a team that a lot of people are kind of really growing on in terms of giving them respect. They may not be the most talented team, but they are a well-coached team. They are a tough team, and beating them isn't a fun process. Then you go to Illinois and Wisconsin right after that, before a much-needed bye week before you host Penn State. Now, if this is an undefeated team heading into that game, or even if they're a one-loss team, that's going to be a massive game. Penn State has all of its expectations coming into 2025, and Ohio State knows where they sit as well. Then you go to Purdue, host UCLA, host Rutgers, and those 3 games should give you, in theory, 3 wins before you go to Michigan. We don't really need to dive into the whole Michigan rivalry. We don't need to dive into what that means, what happened last year. Everybody knows what happened last year. We don't need to discuss that. That's a massive game as well. So you bookend your season with 2 massive games at the beginning and at the end. Maybe you're in the Big Ten championship conversation, but you should still, I think in theory, be in the college football playoff conversation. Now, to me, the ceiling for this team is 11-1. I don't really see 12-0. If they do, I'll be pleasantly surprised. But I think realistically, 11-1 is that ceiling. I also think that 9-3 is the floor. I think that Texas, the Washington trip, Illinois, Penn State, and Illinois maybe not so much, but Penn State and Michigan, those are 4 games at least that I think have some serious concerns if you're Ohio State, especially early in the season with Texas and Washington, and then ending the year Penn State and Michigan. Those are 4 tough games. I don't see them losing all 4, so that's why I put it at 9-3. But that's not that bad. And we would probably feel terrible after winning the national championship, but it's really not that bad. Now, 88% of you think that they're going to finish 1st through 3rd. That wouldn't be surprising. 9% think 4th through 8th. That also wouldn't be surprising. Probably would be disappointing. 3% of you must be Michigan fans, putting them 14th through 18th, because that to me would be crazy. Now, is there a possibility that this team bottoms out? I don't know. I don't think that that's possible. Even with all the new pieces moving around, you do have that floor, that higher floor, if you will, just because of some of the players they return. So it's not like there's a ton of concern at every single position. You do have certain players that elevate your floor where the bottom isn't going to fall out. So 3% of you are probably wrong. That being said, this is going to be an interesting year. Is it a national championship team? We don't know. You do return plenty of exciting players like Jeremiah Smith. So at least this is going to be a very fun team to watch in 2025.